In a world where most people watch movies and then forget about them, 3 brave heroes join forces to watch them again and then talk about them. Join them in their epic journey as they go back in time, a decade and beyond, to revisit and break down films from a vast array of genres. Do these movies hold up over time? Are they classics? Find out on Retro Movie Roundtable. Starring your hosts, Brian Fry, Chad Robinson, and Russell Guest. Coming now to headphones in your ears.
Hello, all your lords, ladies, and knights of the Retro Movie Roundtable. Welcome to the show where we watch movies and then talk about them. I'm your host, Russell Guest, and I am excited because joining me today is my good friend and co-host from right here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Chad Robinson. How you doing, sir?
I'm excited to talk some movies, Russell.
Yes, I am excited to be talking movies again. What's the best way to talk about new movies, Chad?
With a new guest.
With a new guest. That's a great answer because we have a new guest on coming to us from also in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Peyton Baust. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Nice to join.
Well, Peyton, I know you quite well, but now the listeners at home want to get to know you a little better. So, during this COVID crisis, the movie theaters have kind of stopped and delayed a number of movies. What movie is it you're most looking forward to seeing when this COVID crisis lifts?
I'm probably most looking forward to A Quiet Place Part 2.
Good choice.
And I have not seen the first one yet, so obviously I need to get caught up then. It sounds like that was worth being excited over the second one.
That was a great one to see in theaters. It's the only time people shut up. No one was even eating popcorn. It was stunning.
So, Chad, you don't like the people who'd talk during the movie?
If it's a comedy, go for it. If it's a serious horror movie and you have he's right behind you, no. Stop.
All right. And so, Peyton, who is your favorite actress?
My favorite actress, probably at the moment, I'd have to say Melissa McCarthy.
Ah, yes. I'm a big fan of hers.
Yeah.
Is there an effort of hers that you most enjoy?
I'd have to say The Heat. That's probably one of my favorite movies that she's in. That you can't go wrong.
I won't forget, she popped on my radar in Bridesmaids. She wasn't the lead actress on that, but, she stole the show. It just made me laugh so much with all the dogs and the, just the very direct, in-your-face mannerisms. Chad, have I asked you this one before, who your favorite actress is?
I've probably given a fake answer. I don't really have a favorite actor or actress. I mean, right now, anything with Samara Weaving in it, I'm seeing and trying to see, but that's just a trend for right now.
Okay. Peyton, what is the last movie you saw?
The last movie I saw was We're the Millers.
Oh, another good one. These are good movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys are getting paid?
Chad, what about you? What was the last movie you saw?
I introduced Sarah to 2020's version of The Invisible Man.
Oh, okay. Wait, not the Kevin Bacon one.
No, I really recommend it. It's got some great themes. It's a great twist on it. The original back in the 50s is awesome too, but the 2020 version is worth your time.
Okay. I will have to check that out. The last movie I saw, I watched Silver Linings Playbook. It was just on Netflix, and I checked it out. I enjoyed it.
Another one of those mislabeled comedies.
It wasn't a knee slapper, but it was interesting. So,
yeah.
What movie are we doing today, Chad?
The Dark Knight. That's
right. The Dark Knight comes out in 2008. It grosses $530.9 million. I did not mess that up, surprisingly. It made that much. It held the box office record for the largest opening weekend of all time. Still, it broke all the records. It placed number 1 in the box office for that year. And the movie that came in behind it was Iron Man, which that made $200.5 million less. So that's how much money this one made. So even the mighty Marvel Cinematic Universe couldn't compete with this. So IMDb gives The Dark Knight a 9.0. The critics of Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 94%, and the audience score is a dead even 94% with that as well. It gets 2 Academy Awards, Best Supporting Actor for Heath Ledger and Best Sound Editing, and it was nominated for 6 others, Best Art Direction, Best Cinematography, Film Editing, Makeup, Sound Mixing, and Visual Effects. And it won the Golden Globes for Best Supporting Actor, and it was nominated for 9 BAFTAs, but it only won 1, so the British only gave it 1 winner, so Now, Peyton, had you seen The Dark Knight before?
I have. I've actually seen this movie a few times.
What was it like the first time you saw it?
The first time I saw it, I was definitely a lot younger. So I think to see Heath Ledger as a Joker, it was a little intimidating. I mean, it's a dark movie. He's an intimidating looking villain, but I really did enjoy it.
Returning to it now, how's it holding up for you?
It's still excellent. I'd have to say it's probably in my top 3 for something I can sit down and watch again, and probably could recite it.
Top 3 superhero movies or top 3 movies?
Top 3 movies.
Wow. High praise.
Wow.
Yeah. And Chad, have you seen The Dark Knight before?
Of course. I'd have to turn in my nerd card.
You would. But don't worry, it's in good shape. It's laminated. Now, now, what was it like seeing it back when it came out?
I was hesitant. I had not seen Brokeback Mountain at that point, so what I knew Heath Ledger from was 10 Things I Hate About You and A Knight's Tale. I was like, you're getting the dude from Knight's Tale, which I love and will defend, to play the Joker. And I can remember some of the previews kind of turning the tide a little bit, but I was blown away when I saw it in theaters. It's like, oh my goodness, this is great. They're continuing. They made Batman Begins better, and that's rare.
So had you seen it over the years, or had it been a while?
Yeah, it's one I revisit. I'll probably hit the Dark Knight trilogy once every couple of years or so.
Is it your favorite of the trilogy, or is the one that you're featured in your favorite?
Yeah, my wife and I are in The Dark Knight Rises, but this is my favorite. It's the best one.
Okay. For me, I saw this movie when it came out, and I really enjoyed Batman Begins, and couldn't wait. And so sometimes I'm a victim of high expectations, but I also had a conflicting feeling because I love the 1989 Batman. I was 4 years old when that came out, and I loved it. I've probably spoken about it several times in this podcast. It's one of my earliest movie-going experiences where I just loved it, and I kind of have this like thing where it's like, that's my Joker, that's my Batman. And when I went to do The Dark Knight, this was a very, very different experience. I actually kind of had this visceral, like, I'm not sure this is what I want out of my Batman. It's a little mean-spirited, it's too dark. And it's one of those things where I put it down for a long time and I didn't really come back to it. And I appreciated the other chapters a little more so because they're not quite as dark as this. It's interesting coming back to it now. I am able to separate it a little bit more. I'm still always going to love the Jack Nicholson, Michael Keaton version, but I now have been able to shed away some of my animosity towards it for being not that thing that it was when I was younger. So you hear Chad frequently groan when someone says Star Wars prequels or newer Star Wars movies. I think I had that a little bit with Batman, and I'm starting to get over it.
Which is weird because this is actually excellent and has no Jar Jar Binks.
It does not have Jar Jar Binks, but should it though?
No, it should not.
Misa Two-Face. Flip coin.
They could have had Calendar Man or some other lame Condiment King.
Condiment King, nice.
Yes.
Yes. And I should mention, I grew up with Adam West Batman. So like the pow, like speech bubbles or biff, boom, where it's super corny. That was me also cutting my teeth on Batman as well. So I'm coming from a very different perspective. I'm coming around to it. So knowing that everybody's biases are on the table now. So, but we will spoil The Dark Knight in detail after these messages. So we will return after this.
Do you love sci-fi, horror, and fantasy films? Then grab a badge for Otherworld's Film Festival, the country's premier sci-fi film festival. There will be Q&As, panels, parties, and mixers. Rub elbows with up-and-coming and established filmmakers, as well as like-minded filmgoers. Come celebrate our 7th year, December 3rd through 6th at the Galaxy Highland in Austin, Texas. Badges are now for sale at otherworldsfilmfest.com. That's otherworldsfilmfest.com.
All right, we're back, and this is your final warning. There will be spoilers that lie ahead, so if you haven't seen The Dark Knight, you're going to want to go back, watch it, and then continue to listen to this. Chad, do you want to give people at home a recap on what happens in The Dark Knight if they haven't seen it since 2008?
So, a mere 9 months after the events of Batman Begins, Gotham City is under siege by gang warfare and mob activity. The Joker, a new threat to the peace and order that Batman strives to establish, has risen from the chaos and offers to get rid of the Batman. There's hope for the ordinary people of Gotham, though. A new district attorney, Harvey Dent, is tirelessly pursuing the mob, as well as attempting to clean up the corrupt Gotham PD. Bruce Wayne is impressed by Dent and believes that one day Batman can retire and the mantle can be taken up by good, ordinary men like Jim Gordon and Harvey Dent. During an ongoing mass trial, the Joker appears and attempts to kill those involved, including Police Commissioner Loeb, the judge involved with the trial, the mayor, and Harvey Dent himself. Joker promises to keep killing people until Batman reveals his identity. Being the noble White Knight, Harvey Dent takes the fall instead of Bruce, even as Bruce was ready to turn himself in. Harvey and Batman's love interest, Rachel Dawes, who also happens to be Harvey's girlfriend, are abducted by dirty cops and placed in separate locations rigged to blow. Batman must choose who to save, and he chooses Rachel. Unfortunately, the information Joker gave was deliberately mixed up, and he winds up saving Harvey, who has half of his face severely burned during the rescue. The Joker threatens to destroy a hospital and corrupts Harvey Dent, turning him into the schizophrenic villain known as Two-Face. Harvey begins going on a revenge tour while Joker rigs 2 ferries with explosives and forces the occupants to choose which ferry to destroy. There's a big showdown in an incomplete skyscraper where Batman is ultimately able to defeat the Joker and save the lives of those on the ferry. He then learns that Harvey Dent has kidnapped Jim Gordon's family and intends to inflict the same pain on Jim as was inflicted on him by the loss of Rachel. Batman kills Harvey by tackling him over a ledge. He then persuades Jim Gordon to hold him responsible for Dent's killing spree because the city couldn't take their White Knight falling. The police launch a manhunt for Batman, who has lived long enough to see himself become the villain.
Well done, well done. Now, Peyton, why is The Joker such a good movie here? Because I think that's why people got so excited for this.
I think that he, you look and he's coming from, movies like 10 Things I Hate About You, and he's such a dark, sinister, and just bizarre character. He's forcing a rift and he's trying to out, the hero of the movie and bring him down to, everybody else's level.
Yeah. Chad, how is the Joker for you in this one?
I think he even gets described by Alfred as an agent of chaos, but he really just embodies that for me. He's got these tics and this unpredictability. He licks his lips constantly, and he has no rhyme or reason for what he does. He just does, and that's terrifying. And I like what the Joker says to Batman of, you created me. You broke the rules. You broke law and order. I'm here to balance what you're doing. And it's just that struggle between order and chaos.
Yeah, he's exceptionally good at attacking Batman's weaknesses. He challenges him by making him, or putting him in a situation where, he is challenged to kill. And that's like Batman has a no-kill policy. He's head-on-head. Like, Batman represents order and he represents chaos, and they're kind of in this fight for the soul of Gotham City. So they have the same goal. And that makes a good villain when they're rivaling your hero for the same thing, but obviously what they stand for, what they do, are complete opposites. I just think that is really good writing. And I mean, that's stuff from back in the Bob Kane days, but Nolan did a really good job of taking that and I would say advancing those themes here as well as a director. Peyton, are you a fan of Batman as a hero? And how is The Dark Knight for you? It sounds like this is your favorite version of Batman. Why is this your favorite Batman?
This is my favorite Batman. I'm a fan of Christian Bale, so I kind of have that bias, I guess. But I mean, he plays like the perfect Bruce Wayne, the rich, suave people person, kind of playboy type of guy. But, I think he really pulls off that judge, that Law and Order type character as well. And he does it so well. And I just think that from the first movie, Batman Begins, he really takes that character and he just really embodies it very well.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Chad? Who's your go-to Batman?
Oh, man. I really like Bale and the bat suit, and I'm going to duck when I say this, I really like Clooney as Bruce Wayne.
What?
I feel like the
that wasn't
embodiment...
even on the multiple choice exam.
The embodiment of rich playboy, I think of someone that looks like George Clooney. He's kind of got... My wife even constantly puts him down. She's like, he has an air of arrogance or smugness. I like George Clooney, but I thought he was great as Bruce Wayne. Just bad Batman movies.
Wow, that's the hot take of the episode right there. You came out swinging.
Yeah, I hurt Russell's feelings right there.
I mean, I don't know about that. You hurt your credibility. I showed my cards a little bit earlier in the background, but I'm a Keaton guy. But I do like Christian Bale quite a bit. He's a darker, I would say more tortured Batman, and I would say Keaton. There's darkness in him, but he has this. I'm very ahead of the game. Like there's an intelligence that I see in Keaton's portrayal here, whereas I see Bale still maturing as a character. He's coming off of Batman Begins, and here he's learning to deal with an entirely new kind of villain. So again, Joker's a good villain on this one because it forces him to confront a new kind of villain. He thinks he has them all painted. Clearly, he knows how villains tick. And then here comes the Joker. He's not motivated by money. He's not motivated by power. He is, as his name implies, he's a Joker. He's a wild card. And Batman's never had to deal with that before. And so fighting that kind of evil is a very different experience for him. So I see Bale being mentored a lot through his butler, Alfred, in the first movie. And that continues into this movie. So I think Bale does a great job of kind of exhibiting growth as a character. Whereas Keaton's like, I'm the seasoned Batman. I got this all under control. This is how we do things here. So, and that's a very different kind of portrayal of the two characters.
It was interesting to hear him quote Ra's al Ghul when he says, criminals aren't complicated. That's exactly what Ra's al Ghul said in Batman Begins. To your point, it's him learning. Like he had these are how criminals act, and then Joker shows up.
In terms of the Jokers, Peyton, real quick, have you seen the new Joker movie and have you seen 89 Batman?
I have seen the new Joker, but I have not seen the 89. Or no, I think I have seen it. Yeah, but it was a while ago.
So kind of a similar question. How is Heath Ledger's Joker for you in comparison to other iterations of the Joker that you may have seen out there?
If you're looking at the newest, the Joker movie, they're just entirely different because the last year's Joker, it takes on more of a mental illness aspect of the Joker. And I mean, from that, he's an ordinary man, but has mental illness. And I mean, that movie really takes on kind of his backstory, which we don't really see in The Dark Knight. We don't get a backstory on the Joker. We get snippets, but this newest movie, it really introduces you to him as a whole.
Yeah, it was an interesting take. I actually rewatched part of that. I went through the generations of Jokers, went back to the 1989. My favorite is still Mark Hamill. The animated series, if you've played any of the Arkham Asylum, Arkham City games, he does the voice of Joker there. I really think he captures the madness and the laugh and kind of the vindictive evil. Mark Hamill's just wonderful, and there's probably Star Wars influence there, but Heath Ledger is right behind him for me. He's my number two. Just the unpredictability that he adds to it and the guessing game and what's making this guy tick. Joaquin Phoenix's was interesting, but this movie nails it for me. I don't want my Joker to have a backstory. This is a theme that Russell keeps hearing throughout the podcast. I don't want backstories to things. I don't need an explanation. Joaquin did a wonderful job. See the movie, check it out. It's got some great themes. But I think Cesar Romero and the old Adam West would be number 3 for me. Sorry, Russell. Jack Nicholson.
I love Caesar. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize what you're doing. I thought you were, yeah, no, that is bad what you did there. I see what you did there.
He would be above Jack just because I think that's the influence of, that's what I grew up with. But Jack would be right there. Jared Leto's last. I think we can all agree with that.
Yeah.
I actually like Jared Leto as an actor, but yeah, I'm going to put him in my last place as well. But for me, I do have Jack Nicholson at the top, but I'll try not to belabor that point. I do think what Ledger did was not what I expected from the character, because I am familiar with that Mark Hamill version from the animated series that you're talking about, where everything's a joke. He's laughing. He's making this whole situation that Batman takes very seriously, and he's trivializing it. He's saying, you're a joke to Batman. And we don't see that here as much. Here he's trying to break Batman's spirit as well as take over the soul of the city. And that's a very different kind of portrayal of what the Joker is, or what I had thought. And like I said, I think it was an interesting take on it this time. It's a much younger Joker than we've seen any time before. This is the only time, to my knowledge, where the Joker is going to be younger than Batman. That was another thing that kind of made me not so sure about it. And you're right, in the comic books, Joker doesn't have a backstory. He's an agent of chaos. But, I did kind of like that backstory that they put into it. And they made him the one who killed Batman's parents in the 89 Batman. That made Joker like the number one villain, which he is. But I mean, that put him above all the other villains that Batman would go on to face. That's an alteration. But yeah, this Joker did something really different. And he's the much more intelligent Joker than any of the other ones. I mean, he's playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers, and to some degree that's almost like something you would see out of the Riddler, or if you're versed enough in the Batman villains, Fugit, who's always got another step ahead, always got a plan, this mastermind, this tactician. And this Joker doesn't really make jokes. I mean, he does a pencil trick where he makes a pencil disappear, but it's not all a big joke to him. He's actually pretty serious about it. In fact, somebody called him a clown and a freak at one point, and he kind of recoils and is like, I don't like that. You can kind of see that on his face.
Yeah, if you ever want a darker version of the Joker, and it doesn't seem like you do, Russell, but
I don't.
Stuff like The Killing Joke, it's a very famous comic, and it got turned into the movie. The movie's frame rate isn't great, but it was released on Netflix. It's a very dark, painful version of the Joker to go through. He is mean. He kills, like in this movie. So you've got a much meaner version, but you still get the Kevin Conroy from the animated series and the Mark Hamill voices, so that's always nice.
One of the things that I like about Batman is the character, and Peyton kind of alluded to this. He has to play 3 characters. He's Bruce Wayne. He's Bruce Wayne in public, meaning the facade of Bruce Wayne, the public image of what he wants to be as Bruce Wayne, and he's Bruce Wayne as Batman. Do you have any thoughts on the plurality of Batman, or how the Joker interacts with Batman?
I think he handles it, it just in time to out that image. To more so, he wants to make him down again. He wants to bring everyone down to his level of hatred, of chaos. There is no hiding from the Joker, from any of these villains. He's an agent of chaos. Alfred says this. He says there's some men who just want to watch the world burn. The Joker, he wants to watch the 3 faces of Bruce Wayne and the Batman character. He wants to watch him burn. He wants to watch this public image, this private image, just come down to nothing. I mean, you look and you see that scene when the Joker comes in during the dinner party for Harvey Dent, and that's the public face of Bruce Wayne. That's the philanthropist, giving public image, and then he goes and he kills Rachel, and that's his private life, and that's really who he is at his core. He loves her, and then he tries to out him as the Batman, which Harvey Dent ultimately takes the fall for.
It's interesting because he starts out saying, it's easy, we kill the Batman, but then you find out his real motive when he's fighting with Batman, and he says, I don't want to kill you. His real goal is to just break him down and make him, as he says, break his one rule. And they don't even say what the one rule is, but it's kind of understood. It's just fascinating that he's not actually trying to kill him. He's just trying to corrupt him and make him fall from grace. And he does it with Harvey Dent. To your point with Bale, he does a good job. He's a very good character actor, so he's able to change those masks out between arrogant, unsympathetic playboy that's crashing his Lamborghini, and it's totally believable to, philanthropist and then serious, gravelly Batman.
Yeah, I think his public persona, Bruce Wayne, is actually probably the best of all of the Bruce Waynes, because he does come off as kind of arrogant and dislikable. And, Keaton's Bruce Wayne is eccentric. Who buys that thing? Or that's the guy in the mansion up on the hill kind of thing. Nobody really gets him. Bale's cover is probably the most believable to not be believable as Batman. When somebody kind of figures out that he is Bruce Wayne in The Dark Knight and kind of threatens to out him, it's like, nobody's going to believe you kind of a thing. And that's because he's done such a good job of building up the public image of what Bruce Wayne is.
Yeah, falling asleep in the boardroom. That was great.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, Two-Face. We haven't talked about him yet. Peyton, do you like this character?
I have mixed feelings about him. I think he's a perfect white knight. He is the public golden angel, I guess you could say. He kind of comes off as naive to me. I mean, he's not, but like with his coin, he does. He makes his own luck, and I mean, it's realistically, you don't really do that, but Harvey Dent believes it. But he cracks down on crime, which makes him Gotham City's white knight. He isn't scared to take down the criminals, but I mean, ultimately, seeing what happens to him, he does make a good villain. But I love that personable white knight version of Harvey probably more than I do Two-Face.
Okay, so it's hard to watch The Fall from Grace for you then.
It is, yeah.
She believes in Harvey Dent. This had to be an interesting one for you because, you're so attached to the early series, and you've got Billy D. Williams, who is excellent, and then you've later got Tommy Lee Jones, which that movie that was a mess, but that's not Tommy.
The movie's got problems, but I don't mind him being Two-Face, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he's kind of got that snarl that I was used to in the animated series. Yeah, I like that he's still trying to keep to some code, even when he loses the sanity. When he starts going on a killing spree, he still has a code, and that code is now his coin. Everything else broke down, but if it's heads, you live. The cop that was directly responsible for killing Rachel, he lets her live. He's just like, all right, it's heads, lucky you. He still hits her.
I think he's so broken, that's all, that he demands fairness, but he doesn't believe in the world anymore, and so he leaves it to chance.
Right.
I mean, it's a character out of the comic books, but I mean, I think that they did it in a dramatic and realistic way, in a very impressive way, actually. I think Two-Face lives in a different kind of version of Batman to some degree, and this one, they did a really good job of transforming it for this version. This is not a popular opinion, but I found the storyline of Harvey Dent's fall more interesting than necessarily what was going on with the Joker and Batman. Now you can throw things at me.
That's fine. It is interesting regardless of Batman Batman's already breaking all kinds of rules. You may have a point of it's more interesting to corrupt the guy that has all the rules versus corrupt the guy that only has one.
And I think there's a duality within him as well. We see him go dark at one point, and himself, he's so absolutely driven to do what's right. He doesn't hold back. The ends do justify the means for him. We see a scene where, through a series of well-played exchanges to try and capture the Joker, that he ends up gunpoint in front of the assassin who tried to take out the mayor and shot Gordon. And he's sitting there, gun cocked in terms of flipping a coin and stuff like that, threatening to kill him. And you see this real darkness that's in him even before he takes the fall. And that darkness obviously wins out in the end through tragedy and through striking him where he hurts. Because not only did that hurt Batman, that's also the same woman that he loves. And so he's absolutely as driven as Batman, but there's that darkness in him. The restraint that Batman has is not there for Harvey Dent. And so that duality of that light and darkness as a theme throughout this movie. There's a ton of foreshadowing moments when Harvey's date puts a card in front of his face, or when he stands in the shadows and before the accident. And I think that shows you the conflict that's within him, that will then come to manifest itself on the exterior of his face.
Yeah, you see the compromises throughout the movie. Just he starts giving in inch by inch, and it's whittling away at him, and then Rachel happens, and all of it goes out the window.
Yeah. And it's poetic, too, to see who takes the blame for who. I mean, initially, Harvey takes the blame for Batman, for being Batman, and takes the burden off of Bruce's shoulders. But then later, when he is corrupted, Batman covers it up and says the image of who we thought he was is more valuable than the truth. And I'm going to take the fall for this. And so Batman ends up becoming, both of them were kind of acting as the hero by falling on the sword themselves and by not being the good guy in the public's eye in this. That was another interesting two sides of the coin as well. You either die the hero or you live long enough to become the villain. And that was another bit of foreshadowing there as well. Before we go forward, body count. How many bodies would you think are racked up in this movie, Peyton?
Ooh, 55.
Okay, 55. And Chad, what is the body count?
40?
You're a little bit closer, but you're both over. It's 36.
Wow. That's still a lot for a Batman movie.
It is.
Yeah.
And it could have had a whole ferry full of people on it, have things not gone very well. Actually, what did you think about the climax of the movie there, between what they were saying in terms of the faith that they were putting in these people? The Joker believed that they would play off of each other, Peyton.
I think, it really put humanity into that movie. Like, I mean, you have a ferry full of prisoners, like you would think, are violent, murderous, dark people. And you have, your day-to-day average mom, dads, siblings, kids. And I think that it's almost like you expect the prisoners to kind of choose themselves to choose to be a criminal. But really, you see your day-to-day people. You see the one man, and he wants to choose to press the button. And he says that, the criminals, like, they've had their opportunity, they've made their mistakes, and they don't have a second chance, they don't have another chance anymore. But I think really you find the light in it. I think in this very dark movie, you kind of find the light in that people, they're choosing to do better than the crime that surrounds Gotham and the Joker. And I think it frustrates him that he can't bring not only Batman, but the Gotham citizens, like, down to his level and down to that darkness like he is.
Yep. Yeah. That was kind of in the climax of the movie where it didn't. He was expecting a very specific result, and it didn't go his way. And that was kind of when Batman not only captured him, but when Batman kind of won over the soul of the city.
Yeah, I totally don't believe that would happen. I believe lawyer guy or whatever that took the detonator would press that with gusto.
Well, I thought it was a nice introduction at the beginning of the movie because they're in a bank heist, and Joker's using the same. It's called game theory. The game theory tactics of playing his co-henchmen. I was going to say co-workers. That's too nice of a term. His gangster squad off of each other, where they eliminate each other, thus each of them getting a bigger piece of the pie. But everybody keeps listening to it, and soon the bodies really start to drop. And ultimately, Joker walks off with all of the pie. It's kind of like, in the criminal justice system, two prisoners who are convicted together, they'll play them off of each other, and they'll offer a reduced sentence or the ability to walk for one, while the other one would get a huge time in jail. Or if they both keep their lips sealed, they're going to get a medium amount of time in jail. And so if you're in it together, you can both be out in 2 to 3 years. Whereas if you rat the other person out, you might walk and the other person's in jail for 10 years. And so the likelihood of you both keeping your lips sealed, you're putting your faith in somebody else to not do the same thing. And so that's like the fairy saying, like, I'm not going to do this. And if you don't do this, I won't do this, and we'll both be okay. But then you're both kind of getting punished. And that's the thing that it works well in the legal justice system, because unless you have a vested interest that says that's my brother, then I would never rat out my brother. Whereas if it's just another criminal guy, it's his problem. I'd rather be the first guy to raise my hand and get out of here faster. So it's also a race to the clock for who will do it first. And so the Joker executes his plan in that fashion early in the movie, and then he's not able to do it at the end. And Like you said, Peyton, it frustrates him, and that's probably one of my favorite parts of the movie too. Like, it's a dark movie, and there's not a lot of brightness in it, but you're right. There's a shining little hope for humanity in there.
Yeah.
Chad, you want to give people a cast rundown?
Sure thing.
Heavy cast.
First up, we've got Christian Bale, who is our Bruce Wayne / Batman, the billionaire by day, masked vigilante by night. We've got Heath Ledger, talked about him a lot, who plays Joker, the clown prince of darkness. Aaron Eckhart, who plays Harvey Dent, Gotham's district attorney, who is our tragic hero. Michael Caine, Sir Michael Caine, I guess, who plays Alfred Pennyworth, Bruce Wayne's butler and confidant. Maggie Gyllenhaal, she is the newly recasted Rachel Dawes, coming off Katie Holmes' performance, and she is Bruce's love interest as well as Harvey's current girlfriend. We've got the chameleon Gary Oldman, who plays Jim Gordon. He's our trusted police officer who works with Batman. Morgan Freeman, who plays Lucius Fox. He's an employee at Wayne Enterprises who helps Batman with cool gear. He's essentially Q from the 007 movies. Monique, Gabriela Curnen, who plays Ramirez, a dirty female cop, and Ron Dean plays Wirtz, who is our dirty male cop. Have underutilized Cillian Murphy. He is returning as the Scarecrow, one of the villains from Batman Begins. Chen Hall, if you're a fan of Marvel movies as well, this guy pops up in everything. He plays Lau. He's our corrupt accountant who's good with numbers. Nestor Carbonell, he plays the mayor. Really not much else to say there. He's the mayor. And finally, I'm going to bring up Eric Roberts, who plays Sal Maroni. He is the lead mobster in town.
And brother of Julia Roberts.
Really?
Yep.
Oh.
And you can also, fun fact, find him in the Killer's Mr. Brightside video.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I love that song. I've never seen that video.
Yes, he is Julia Roberts' older brother.
Huh.
He's not as smiley as her. That's probably why it didn't connect for you.
I mean, he's a good-looking guy. Like, he's striking, so that makes sense. But
No, but I mean, like, she smiles a lot, and
yeah,
him here, he's got a
Yeah.
he's stone-faced. So
he smirks a lot. He's got a lot of confidence.
yes, he does.
Yes.
What do you think about this heavy cast, Peyton? There's 5 Oscar winners in this. That's a lot of power in one movie.
It is. It really is. I think this is a great cast. I mean, I love Michael Caine, and I mean, of course, you can't go wrong with Morgan Freeman. He's great actor. Can play really any role.
I just want to know why he's not narrating this.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Yeah, the voice of God. Yeah, no, he's great. Christian Bale. I mean, I love him. I think he's he's a great actor, a great Batman. Heath Ledger, he's just an amazing Joker. I mean, you see him in various movies, 10 Things I Hate About You, where he's kind of, that odd kind of dirtball greasebag kind of guy, and he's completely 180. Gary Oldman, he's another one of my favorite actors. Can't go wrong there either. It's a great cast all around.
It's amazing when you can get Michael Caine and Morgan Freeman to be, what are they, 5th and 6th build? That's amazing. Oldman's down there around like 8th. That's deep.
Yeah, this has to be one of our toughest movies on recast. We'll get to the superlatives later, but it was just like, man, they nailed it from top to bottom here. It's so impressive, and how do they get these people to do this movie? This wasn't a time, now we live in an age where everyone wants to do a Marvel movie. Not everyone was piling up to do superhero movies, so this really showed some faith in Christopher Nolan and what he could do.
It's true. Nolan met Ledger before the casting of Batman Begins. He was actually involved in that, and he liked Ledger, but he thought he was wrong for the parts in that movie. But when the Joker came up for this movie, Nolan met with several other actors before Ledger, but then found them reluctant to take the role because of the popularity of Nicholson's large shadow. Because it is a large shadow, as I stated. And upon meeting Ledger again, Nolan recognized him as the perfect choice for the part. This was an unexpected casting. Nolan simply replied because he's fearless. He didn't have that shadow of trying to live up to Jack or trying to do what Jack was doing. Ledger was willing to portray something completely different. And as you mentioned, Chad, there were a lot of people who were afraid for him and thinking this isn't going to go well, And then he surprised a lot of people.
Yeah, that's why I'm giving Robert Pattinson a little bit of grace here for the new Batman casting. He was excellent in The Lighthouse. I can't hold Twilight against him because he spends his time making fun of it. He understands. He got his money. Now he gets to do what he wants.
He's about to make a lot more money.
Yeah. I saw Paul Bettany was another one in line for the Joker, another Knight's Tale alum. Most people are going to know him now as Vision from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I actually think he could have done a good job. Adrian Brody, Steve Carell, and Robin Williams were the others, though. Like, I scratched my head at that. I could see Adrian Brody playing one of the thugs.
I think Robin could have done it, but I would have liked him to have done it when he was younger.
It would be an interesting take. It would be a lot funnier, I'm sure, but Steve Carell is the one that I'm just like, yeah, you raised your hand, but why?
I don't know. He's pretty good in Threat Level Midnight.
My wife would have liked the Matt Damon being offered the role of Harvey Dent. He turned it down for Invictus.
I feel like Matt Damon is always considered for casting in every movie. It's just, as we do this, I always see that, and Matt Damon was considered. It's just always just like, it's like the standard guy that's like, can we get Matt Damon? No? Okay, who else can we get?
Yeah, there were worse. I can't imagine I saw Ryan Phillippe and Hugh Jackman for Harvey Dent. Like, just, please don't do that.
It does show you to give people another chance. I remember everybody was crucifying Ben Affleck for being selected as Batman, and while Ben Affleck's movies are not particularly good Batman movies, he wasn't the problem. Like, I remember getting to it and said, oh, there's problems here, but it's not Ben Affleck. Wow.
Yeah, Ben Affleck was the least of Batman versus Superman. I was fine with it. I wasn't against that casting, but Hugh Jackman, you've already got him playing Wolverine. I don't know why he needs to be involved with DC. That was just weird. James Gandolfini, though, for Sal Maroni, that intrigues me. I like that. I thought Eric Roberts did a good job, but I would have liked the Sopranos take, too.
Peyton, you mentioned earlier liking the Joker. What is it from Heath Ledger in terms of how he portrays the character that just says, this is the top?
Part of it, I would have to say, is just his makeup. I think, you look at Jack Nicholson, he's kind of like a more, not a classic clown kind of look.
Mm-hmm.
But, this Joker, he's kind of looks like he's kind of been through it in terms of his clothes. You have that suit and that purple suit that's the classic, just kind of almost elegant look. But then you have this makeup on top of it that increasingly it becomes messier as the movie goes on. And I think, and just his ability to just, that laugh, I think it's kind of that sinister laugh is what does it for me. He has that laugh that just kind of, it's like a bone chilling, ominous, dark, very sinister take. And I always remember for him, I associate him with these movies more than anything because probably the opening Disney movies when they'd have those previews and it would just be that scene and he's like, and here we go. That's the thing that I associate most with Batman. It's just that scene and he's just chaotic. He's unpredictable. And I think he was the first Joker that I really learned to appreciate. I saw the original Batman movies and when I was younger and they terrified me. So I think that's probably why I don't have such an appreciation for the other ones. But Jared Leto didn't do it for me at all.
Join the club. Somewhere fries cheering.
Yeah, but to your point, though, I mean, Heath Ledger there was a lot of people who said that, because he died shortly after the release of this movie, and there was a lot of speculation that said because he was so involved with this character that I guess he went to a hotel room for about 6 weeks to prepare for this in seclusion. And there were some people saying that he had become depressed or had dove too deep into his character and that drove him to his death. But later, thank goodness, I didn't realize that was debunked. People who were on the cast were saying that he was enjoying this as like the role of a lifetime and that he was enjoying himself at doing this, and his family later came out. You know, it was a drug toxicity that killed him. Ledger did suffer from insomnia throughout his life, and so he was taking sleeping pills with other prescription drugs. And his sister had even warned him that night before his death about doing that. And unfortunately, the mix of drugs that he had taken that night became a fatal combination. And so it was not a suicide attempt necessarily. So it's a shame. It was an accidental death, and we lost him too soon.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see, would he have been back in Dark Knight Rises? I don't think so. I think you still need to focus on the story of Bane, but it would have been interesting. We got Scarecrow back.
Yeah.
I know for a fact Nolan in other interviews said that he wanted Bane in the third movie because nobody had physically matched Batman up at that point, and he wanted a villain who was more physically imposing. That Batman did not have, he would have to beat him with his mind. I don't think the Joker would have come in there, but it's fun to think of what if Christopher Nolan had kept making these and, gone Marvel Cinematic Universe and in Brian's wildest dreams of just give me 19 movies. Which I'm kind of glad he didn't, because Nolan is so good.
Yeah.
I feel like somebody else probably should have taken the mantle from him and kept making this series of movies because it's good. But on the other hand, Nolan is so good, I wouldn't want to lose his other works.
Yeah, the next thing he went on to do was Inception. So
yeah, I wouldn't want to lose Inception.
No.
We haven't mentioned this. Katie Holmes, this is an unusual circumstance. Katie Holmes does not return, and she does so by choice. She chooses to take the movie Mad Money, where she co-stars with Diane Keaton and Queen Latifah. It's a fine movie, but it's a strange acting choice. What do you think about her not returning and Maggie Gyllenhaal stepping into her shoes, Peyton?
I was a little bit hesitant. I really haven't seen many Maggie Gyllenhaal in really many movies. I really did like Katie Holmes. I thought she was a great Rachel Dawes. It did surprise me at first watching the second movie, and I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, this isn't Rachel. But I think ultimately Maggie Gyllenhaal, she does a good job. Unfortunately, she's only Rachel for one movie. But I think she plays the perfect girlfriend part, the love interest between Harvey and Bruce Wayne. I think she was a solid cast.
So parallel universe, Harvey Dent and Bruce Wayne could have both married Rachel because one of them could have married Katie Holmes and the other one could have married Maggie Gyllenhaal, and it all would have worked out for both of them.
That's one theory.
The twin sister theory, yes.
It's like, odd decision here of Batman Begins is a wild success and you chose to do the Queen Latifah movie. I think Queen Latifah's probably highest grossing movie is Ice Age.
Well, that did make a lot of money, didn't it? I don't know. Oh, well, she's in Chicago.
I think I'd still put money on Ice Age being the highest grossing. But yeah, Chicago's a great movie. Check that out. And she does do a great job.
Anyway, as we move forward, Peyton, Christopher Nolan as a director, do you enjoy his work and do you like it here?
Oh, I love Christopher Nolan. I mean, his movies are just so well done. They're executed flawlessly. I mean, I recently seen Dunkirk. I love that. I thought that was an excellent movie. It's another one that I could probably sit down and watch a few times without missing anything, without feeling like I'm wasting my time. Inception. Great movie. It's a longer one, but it's also excellent. And I loved Interstellar. That was a recent one of his that I had watched. I think he really did this trilogy very well, and he's a great producer. Yeah.
And have you done Memento or Insomnia from before he's got into the Batman side of things?
Not that I can remember. I'd have to put it onto my ever-growing movie list.
I went in excited for Batman Begins because I loved Insomnia. And Memento is one that I went back and picked up as well. Pretty much anything Christopher Nolan touches is great. So these trilogy of Dark Knight movies are certainly no exception to that. I'm a huge fan of his work. He's so good at telling stories. This is surprisingly the only one that I'm aware of. Am I wrong, Chad? He normally doesn't tell his stories in a linear fashion. This is the most This is the least complicated storytelling method he takes, and even at that, it's still an involved story.
I haven't seen Dunkirk or Interstellar. They're both on my list, but yeah, judging from The Prestige and Inception, and Memento, they're very jumbled movies. They're meant to confuse you, and the Batman trilogy is not. You're right. It's told from plot A to B to C, and it just moves the story along.
But it's still deeply intertwined, and it's a complicated plot. I mean, superhero movies don't normally have this weight to them. It's a 2-hour, 45-minute movie. That's not normal. And there's all these themes, like we talked about, the duality of these characters, and the soul of Gotham is lying in the winds. And so I just feel like Christopher Nolan always gets the plot right. It's always complicated. His characters are deep, and he is an excellent storyteller, and he's a good cinematographer as well.
He clearly likes deception and trickery. His very first Batman villain after The Prestige is Ra's al Ghul, League of Shadows, and their whole thing is operating the shadows, deception, trickery, misdirection, and then you get the Joker, and then Inception is a lot of, is it real, is it not real? So he does like to keep you guessing.
Yeah, Memento has a lot of twists in it as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a great point. I like to be misdirected and taken through a path and go through that journey, and perhaps that's why I like Nolan so much. Most of these movies are a little bit on the darker side. You'll notice none of these movies that we've talked about have a cheerful tone to them. If anything, Interstellar might, but it's, for the vast majority of the movie, it's not a happy situation there either. It's just there's a dark tone to Nolan's work, but I still like it a lot.
I would have to agree.
Did you notice a difference in Batman Begins to The Dark Knight? Any kind of transformations that Nolan takes with the work? Either one of you guys?
And if nothing else, the suit is clearly transformed, and it actually becomes a huge plot point. They made it into this segmented pieces of armor, and there are several different individual pieces, and Lucius even says, oh, you want to turn your head, but it becomes Batman needs to move, he needs to be more agile, he can't just brute force his way into everything.
I noticed he spinning camera a lot more in The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Because there's this sense of being out of control in a few scenes, and he's orbiting the camera around the characters. So a time when you would see this is the argument between Harvey Dent, Commissioner Gordon, and Batman on the roof, and they're all arguing whose fault it was. Are your cops clean? Can I trust you? And the camera's spinning around, showing you each of their faces, and it slides around other objects, and it puts you on nerves. And then it comes to a stop when they've kind of hit a point where they realize they can trust one another, and they're going to move forward together. And similarly, the camera spins around the Joker at the dinner party when he's grabbing Rachel, and it's a very uncomforting situation, and that's not something that I remember seeing a lot in Batman Begins. And it's an effective thing that I noticed that he did in The Prestige, and he brought it into play here heavy in The Dark Knight, and I liked it.
Yeah, you're right. It's something I highlighted as well, just creating dizziness and confusion, just disorientation. He also got some toys to play with. He had, 4 out of the 6 IMAX cameras in the world he was using, and there's 37 minutes of IMAX footage. When we were doing the Dark Knight Rises, I think he had 2 IMAX cameras, and one of them broke, and he just made a joke. He's just like, no big deal. It's one of 2 available in the world right now. We'll just get another one. But those shots are, you had to see it in theater for the IMAX experience, but there are a lot of lingering shots too. He seems to dwell on just the despair and hopelessness. He leaves the camera on the shots where Batman Begins. It's a lot quicker to leave the scene.
One thing that I remembered this movie being a lot more violent, and it's not actually that bloody. It's scary. The Joker himself is scary. He's very threatening, but there's not a lot of cut him up blood in this, and that's kind of surprised me when you go back through this. It's not as visually grisly. It's just very threatening.
Yeah, there was blood 4 times in the movie.
Oh, you
Everything
counted.
else happened
Great. Yeah.
off screen. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't count. The internet counted for me, but as we frequently say, the internet never lies.
Never. It's always right.
Everything is always true.
Always. The other one that I thought was interesting, it made me really remember thinking it was more violent and darker, was the interrogation scene. And that was an intense scene where Batman was basically beating Ledger. And I thought it was interesting that Nolan kind of stopped, because Bale was in an interview, and in that interrogation scene, Ledger wanted him to hit him hard. And he wanted to feel the real thing. And so he wanted to get into the mode and do it. And it got carried away. Nolan kind of was like, man, hey, that's a lot.
Well, it did get cut. It actually originally ended with Batman kicking the Joker in the head. He turns back and kicks the Joker in the head and then leaves, and Nolan just thought that was a bridge too far.
Yeah, that's kind of Batman breaking that principle of self-restraint, and I'm glad they did that. Nobody likes it when you get too into character. People complain about Jared Leto creeping you out as Joker in character. So you can take the acting thing too far. So, how did you feel about the end of this movie, Peyton? Did you like the Joker's fate being somewhat ambiguous?
Yeah, I think in terms of endings, I think it's a suitable ending. I would say he's done his damage. He's kind of, reigned terror, but I think ultimately, he's kind of defeated. He's kind of brought down, which, in the end, it's always good, always wins, which is what you see. But I think in terms of endings, his ending, it's probably not my favorite, but it's something that I definitely would have to, if I went through all the other 2 movies, I'd have to definitely revisit before I made a total decision on his ending versus, others.
It's like they left it open for him to come back, but then we never got him to come back.
Exactly.
I appreciated the symmetry, which probably drives you nuts with the 1989 Batman.
Yes.
Because it's a grappling gun that kills the Joker in 1989. Knocks him off the building, and it's a grappling gun here that saves him. Keeps him from breaking that one rule. So that was a nice touch for me, and I love Joker spinning around saying, we could do this forever.
Yeah, I think that's the part that I found a little bit unfulfilling from a movie standpoint. If it's a TV show, yeah, by all means, you can't get rid of a baddie that good. But on the other hand, in a movie, there's some degree of closure that I didn't have. And I almost want more, like I said, I want more of these movies. I want Robin to come in. I want the Batman saga to unfold. And sure, bring him back. But we didn't get that. And because we didn't get that, I think I have that incomplete feeling.
Yeah.
So you want to Count Dooku in your movie to kill off?
I don't know about that, but
Russell wants more throwaway villains, people.
Well, on the other hand, I didn't want Harvey Dent to be killed. So I feel like we got the Joker's run, and to Peyton's point, she said, I feel like he did his damage. Whereas I felt like we did not get Two-Face proper until it's 2 hours into this movie, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I'm sure.
That he is Two-Face. And we only get about 40 minutes of Two-Face time, if even that, to be honest. And so he's a good villain. And they did such a good job. And like I said, I might be biased because I said I had more interest in watching his character and his fall than I did necessarily what was happening with the Joker. I wanted to see that come to greater fruition. I wanted to see him become the villain. And we didn't get to do that.
I think the rampage was so severe and out in the open that you had to. There's so much you would have to change. And I liked all the foreshadowing of the city's going to turn on Batman, and really the only way to accomplish that was to kill Harvey.
Yeah. No, great point. Another cinematic thing that I noticed that Nolan does in this movie a lot, more than the other movie, is overhead shots, helicopter shots. Now, that could be because he has more money to do it, but I think that he's doing that because I believe, again, the stakes, it's that theme of the soul of Gotham City is in hand. Will it be won out by the proper people in the system with Harvey and the White Knight? Or will it be won out by this chaotic Joker who wants to take the city's spirit and, with chaos? Or will it be up to Batman to, restore order and do it his way? And that unsettled feeling that the city has is kind of reinforced through these not particularly beautiful, but kind of slightly panning and zooming kind of overhead shots. And that puts you on edge. It shows you what's at stake, and it reminds you of that throughout the movie.
Yeah, I don't know that I noticed the helicopter shots, but I don't blame him. If I had a bunch of money, I would do helicopter shots too. They're cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I most noticed that when he's in Hong Kong. Is it when he's jumping off the building and the skyrise? I think that's one of the best kind of helicopter overhead type scenes that you see. And that one to me, that's always like a kind of a breathtaking take from a movie, just like that. And it pans it, like you said before, it does. It's like, it's not a still shot. It pans around, like, and you see exactly like what you said before, what's at stake. You see that he's on a skyscraper and he's got literally everything to lose jumping off. But I think it's also, again, a money thing. If you have more money, why not hang out of a helicopter? And
I don't think it's gratuitous, Michael Bay. We've got more money, so let's put some more explosions in it. I really think that it was a conscious decision on Nolan's part that I want overhead shots in this movie.
They literally blew up an entire building. I think there was some gratuitous, we have money, let's do it.
Oh, I guess they did. I guess they did exactly what I just said. We've got some money, so let's blow it up for real. Okay. I guess that's egg on my face. Good point. So,
they got a Lamborghini Murcielago just because it's a Spanish word for bat.
Yeah. One thing that bothered me was Barbara Gordon is Gordon's wife.
That did bug me.
Barbara Gordon is Batgirl, and that should be his daughter's name. And it's very unusual to see a mother-daughter named, like, sometimes you'll have, like, Jimmy Jr. Like, you don't see that with the ladies as much. You don't see a daughter getting the mother's name handed down to her. So unless that's what happened here, shame on you, Christopher Nolan. That's you robbed us of Batgirl.
Yeah, that was a weird touch.
Yeah. Maybe there's hey, Christopher Nolan likes time play. Maybe he's planning some Inception stuff and there's going to be a time travel, and maybe she still will be. Probably not.
Get some Lazarus pits to restore her youth.
Yeah, that's the League of Assassins kind of shadowy stuff that could exist here.
Yeah, it's anyone dies, Lazarus pit, just they're everywhere.
Peyton mentioned at this point, this is kind of a makeup comment that comes down the line, but Ledger's makeup is only applied to his face. He's not white everywhere, and which means they're not going with the comic book side of things of Joker fell in a vat of chemicals, thus warping his mind and his skin, and his hair's actually green. This is a very different looking. His face is scarred, but he's not that different. He actually looks like a guy who could walk down the street at one point when he's impostered as a one of the policemen in the marches. So that's another one of those. Nolan's taken a number of liberties with the comic.
Yeah, I mean, he's combining The Long Halloween was not a Joker story, but that is primarily what this movie is. It's kind of a mix between Long Halloween and Killing Joke. But along those lines, I think the scars thing is fascinating. And it really lends to the Joker's character of just the want to know how I got these scars. And then you never actually find out. And it just makes it worse and worse and worse. As he's describing all these horrific situations. It's like, probably none of these are true. He probably did it to himself. At this point, I don't know what to believe, but it's just insanity.
Yeah. Peyton, what do you think about the look of Gotham City in The Dark Knight?
I personally like the look. I think I always forget, kind of like where it's actually filmed.
This one's Chicago. This is heavy Chicago.
Yeah, this one is heavy Chicago, but I know like there were some films shot for The Dark Knight Rises in Pittsburgh. So I think that it is done really well. And I was reading kind of about the filming and like it's set in Chicago and just kind of how they had changed some of the buildings for like where Wayne Enterprises was. And I think it's a great set for, all like the chase scenes, like the police convoy scene, kind of where they're down in the tunnels. Because I mean, as someone who's been to Chicago and seen kind of where these shots were filmed, it's really interesting just to find that that's like Gotham City. It's that city area. It's that you've kind of got those dark areas, but also you've got those big like skyscraper money type buildings. I think it's a great location. I mean, I'm always a fan of Pittsburgh, but can't go wrong with Chicago.
Yeah, it's a very realistic Gotham City. Nolan wanted realism brought to his movies, and he didn't try and fantasize very much with his version of Gotham City.
I'll throw this out there because I'm not an architect, so I'm not spotting all these buildings and stuff.
I'm holding back. Go ahead, though.
I felt this was less Chicago-y than Batman Begins. Like, Batman Begins to me, even to me, who is not that familiar with the city of Chicago, was like, oh, it's Chicago, and we've put a railway and Wayne Enterprises. This one didn't feel as on point with Chicago to me.
I felt like it's old Chicago in the Batman Begins, to your point, and it probably has to do with what part of Chicago you love, which is why it's such a great city. It's got these different layers to it. It reinvented itself after the fire, and there's this explosion of beautiful building from an older era, and then it had this mid-century boom that it reinvented itself again. And so you kind of see that first layer in more so. So Wayne Enterprise is in an Art Deco building that's the Chicago Board of Trade building, and Batman Begins, whereas here they've moved it to Daly Center Plaza, which that's the building the Blues Brothers drive through in the lobby, and that's where Wayne Enterprise is for this one, and they wanted to have a more modern portrayal of Gotham City. It's almost like the city has gotten dramatically better in the last 9 months since Scarecrow was evicted. There's been a building boom, and this is a much cleaner, nicer city. So it's really interesting. They definitely hit a lot of my favorites in Chicago. The IBM building is at the inside of the boardroom that Wayne is in, the Illinois Center. Both of those are by Mies van der Rohe, great architect, is in there. The elevated train scenes are distinctly Chicago. And, the Sears Tower or the Willis Tower as it's now known, Batman's on top of that looking over the city in another one of those wonderful aerial shots. And that unfinished building that they're fighting the Joker in, that's the Chicago Trump Tower that was under construction at the time and would later go on to be built as well by Adrian Smith of SOM. So, and even there's this scene where they're in an iconic Chicago restaurant called the Berghoff. That's a staple, like, you got to eat here. It's a German restaurant that's been open since the 1800s. That's where Maroni is arrested and stuff like that. And they zoom out and you're at Navy Pier as the city's being evacuated. It's really literally got a lot of the high points of Chicago. It's almost like a nice little travel log. It's not presented in a glamorous way, but on the other hand, it's a much cleaned up, more modern, sophisticated. We're not at Wayne Manor in this movie. We don't see the Batcave. We don't see that gothic, dark Art Deco side of things that Tim Burton featured so heavily in his first two movies, which, by the way, if you want to hear about one of those movies, we did Batman Returns so long ago, so go back and check out that episode too.
Long answer to my question was it did feel Chicago-y to you.
It did, but it's different to Peyton's point. Like, it's which side of Chicago are you on?
Pittsburgh was distracting. Like, you can't drive from there to there.
I would have to agree with you there.
I think that happens for any time that you know the actual geography.
It was fascinating. They filmed it it was filmed in July, and it was right by my place of work, and we walked down the street and there was snow because it had to be cold. And we went to the stadium to film that scene, and we were told to wear heavy winter coats. And it was like 85 degrees, and that was a 12-hour shot. It's like, you're cold, act cold. And I'm like, no, we're dying.
So you mentioned earlier that you like the Joker's attire, that kind of, I mean, he's kind of got like maybe a steampunk kind of rougher appearance, and you liked that about the makeup and the wardrobe, Peyton, is that right?
Yes, that is correct. I did like that kind of disheveled look that he has.
Okay, and that's another one of those departures from the comic books. I think most people really did like it. It seems to have been one of those Halloween costumes that was the hot Halloween costume for a good 5 years.
Yes, yes.
It's such an iconic look if you do it poorly, and not to belabor the point, but I am looking at you, Suicide Squad. People get really, really mad. So the new suit for Joker and for Batman, I mean, we've all heard the fanboys rant on the nipples on the Batsuit. So you've got to get the Batsuit right too. And I thought they nailed both of them.
It's a good Batsuit.
It is.
They've increased the mobility in it by making those smaller armor plates. It's a good looking Batsuit. I prefer this to the stubby ears that Ben Affleck later goes on to have. I like my Batman to have a certain amount of ears.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
The Joker, one fun thing, we were talking about Cesar Romero version. In the beginning, Joker and his gang all have masks on. And there's an episode of the old Adam West version of Batman where Joker has a clown mask on. And that is very, very similar to the one that Joker is wearing during the heist of this movie. So that's a really fun little callback to the old days.
Yeah, I thought that was a really cool callback.
Yeah. Are there any special effects that caught your eye as being awesome or not so awesome, Peyton?
I would say kind of I liked all the explosions, especially the one scene that always will stay with me is the police convoy scene, and they're all chasing each other down in that tunnel, and then I think it's always hilarious, when those kids are sitting in that car and they're play fighting with like finger guns, and all of a sudden there's that big explosion, and just kind of like I think all of the Batmobile, like the Batmobile, the car, the motorcycle, I think those are just, to me, are so, I guess, kind of Playboy type effects that, I mean, in seeing them like built and actually like as sets later that you can see in like, museums, it's just incredible, like that these were built for these movies. I think those are some of the things that I really love about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
That was a fantastic scene. Peyton's right. All the cars going everywhere. Is that a bazooka? And he's shooting the RPG. Just progressively ridiculous weapons. Cars flipping everywhere. I didn't know until I read about this that they actually did blow up the building. I figured, CGI everything. So no, the special effects are cool, especially when they're able to do practical effects.
Mm-hmm. Like they built a Batmobile that looks like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to be down on this one, but I've never liked the Nolan Batmobile. Like, it doesn't feel like a Batmobile. Obviously, they put a lot of realism into it. They wanted something that felt like it could be rough and tumble. They call it the Tumbler, and they wanted something that could feasibly do some of all of these things. So there is a lot of science-based design in what they're doing, and it's interesting when you see some of the DVD features talking about this, about combat vehicles, and how they wanted to talk about if you wanted a car to like kind of pop a wheelie, and then if you hit a jet blast, could it actually jump? And yeah, they could actually do some of these things, and these are advancements that you might see and stuff coming down the line. And good James Bond or Batman movies will always kind of stay one step ahead of where the technology is and kind of dream. And it's really interesting how some of those things influence the people who grow up watching them. And those are the scientists of tomorrow. And those things that seem like they're one step ahead or kind of out there will become tomorrow's reality. And so it is very much in keeping with that, advancing it one step further. I just thought the style of these things, especially for a second movie, if you wanted to give them like a rugged look in the first movie, like I'm putting this together in the morning, how to do it, I just didn't feel like it looked like a Batmobile as much. I do kind of want to see some of those. I don't know. There's that. I fell in love with Tim Burton's Batmobiles. So that elongated, with the bat fins and stuff like that, to me is still always going to be my Batmobile.
That is the best Batmobile.
I did love it when he kicked out the motorcycle off the actual Batmobile. When he did that, I was like, whoa!
And this film lives up to its name too. The lighting. It's dark. It's dark all the time. That is kind of, I know you like the bright Burton colors, but darkness is so essential to Batman's identity and his operations that it fits for me.
Oh, I thought Burton depicted Gotham as a crappier, dirtier, scarier place, to be honest with you.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah.
I'll just throw in this is the only Batman movie where Batman doesn't use a Batarang. Like, come on. Couldn't fit that in anywhere in the 2 hours and 40 minutes?
I love when the kid's like, no one's ever going to believe me that I saw this in one of the other movies, and he hands him like a Batarang. Hans Zimmer did the soundtrack for this one. It's a lot more jarring and a lot more unsettling than the previous movie. Peyton, did you like the music of this movie?
I did. I think it's a good soundtrack. I think really for all of, honestly, Christopher Nolan's movies, I think they all have good soundtracks. I would say this one's really no different. That it has. I think it fits perfectly. I think that kind of from the intro to this lone scenes of the Joker, it's ominous. It's dark. It's like an unsettling overall dark soundtrack that I do like.
Mm-hmm. Chad?
I think I appreciated the minimalist approach the most. The sound, particularly in the prison transport scene, is really muted so we can hear the cars on the pavement, all the swerving that's going on, the explosions. There's just so much that's being picked up by Zimmer knowing when to back off. I mean, we could have had a full-blown theme and just excitement. If you watch the new Joker movie, it's got a lot of common pop songs in it, which is an interesting decision. This one, the theme's only used twice. The full-on Batman theme, you only hear it twice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that deep brass sound, but it's used effectively, and I appreciate the restraint on Zimmer's part. I'm sure you'll want to talk about some of the unique things he did for Joker scenes.
Oh, yeah. So for playing some of that part of the score, he was really experimenting by playing piano wires with like razor blades and shards of metal and glass. So he was really breaking the box on that one. Do you guys want to hand out some awards now?
I would love to.
All right. Peyton, who's your MVP of The Dark Knight?
Heath Ledger, for sure. He would be my MVP.
Rest in peace. Great choice, and I think that's the usual answer. Is that yours as well, Chad?
I really want to give it to Christopher Nolan, but I can't. Yeah, I've got to give it to Heath Ledger. Second favorite Joker of all time, mesmerizing performance, and just the chaos he brings to this role is absolutely deserving of that Oscar, and then his tragic passing just cements this film as legendary.
Yeah, it changes the legacy of how we view him as an actor. He's not just a pretty face. In fact, he was a gifted actor, and he's my pick for MVP as well. He's not my favorite Joker, but you can't deny this really resonated, and for an entire generation, this is their Joker, and it's very well done, and you won't forget it. And it's a shame that we didn't get to see him come back and do it again. So, best supporting actor, Peyton.
My best supporting actor would be Gary Oldman as James Gordon. I think he's incredible, and he plays that protector of Gotham City, that law and order character who does trust Batman. He would definitely be my best supporting.
Love it.
Excellent choice.
Great choice. Chad, who's yours?
Man, there were so many great castings here.
You really can't go wrong. It's a buffet.
Yeah.
You can't. Michael Caine, for me, his speeches and banter are just captivating, and I really like how he tells the story about the man in Burma throwing away the stolen gems. Just his delivery of some men just want to watch the world burn. It's compelling.
Well, this shows you how deep this cast is, because I'm going to go with Morgan Freeman on this one. I thought I was going to go Michael Caine, but I feel like he shines through more in the previous movie, and he doesn't get as much time on screen this time. So I was between Oldman and Morgan Freeman, and everybody gets their due here. So I love him, and the guy who's running the company and fully knows what's going on with Batman. And I love his wink, wink, nod, nod character. And I love the line where he's just like, so you want to out the guy who has a multi-billion-dollar corporation behind you and is Batman and picks apart villains with his bare hands, and you want to anger this guy? Be my guest. Like, and this like laughing, didn't even hesitate. Freeman just, so good on this one. So, hidden gem. Who is your hidden gem, Peyton?
I would probably have to say Michael Caine. I mean, he has his role, but I think he's always kind of underappreciated. I mean, he's a staple in the Batman movies. He shapes them. He shapes Batman. He shapes Bruce Wayne. I think he's very underappreciated.
Great choice. Chad, who is your hidden gem?
I'm going deep. I couldn't even find the guy's name. I wish I had like an X-ray feature on my Blu-ray, but it's the guy in the prisoner transport car who was really chatty. He's talking to the other driver who turned out to be Jim Gordon. And he keeps saying things like, I hope you're a good driver, and screaming, that's not good. Okay, that's not good.
That is a deep cut.
He's just this extra who is showing the panic of these police officers and the madness going on.
It adds a little bit of levity that keeps it fun. And that's that scene that Peyton mentioned where the kids are using the fake gun and stuff like that. There's a little bit of comedic relief in this movie, and I'm glad that they did that. Yeah. This movie needs moments of light like that. I'm going to go with, and this is a very difficult name to pronounce, so I'm sorry if I get this wrong, but his name's David Dastmalchian, and he is the Joker's thug assassin who Two-Face holds at gunpoint. Man, he's so convincing as this crazy guy who doesn't even know what he's doing. I thought he looked familiar, and sure enough, he's an Ant-Man.
Ah, yes.
So yeah, he's one of the lovable support characters in Ant-Man. Recast somebody. If you had to recast somebody, who would it be, and who would you put in their place? Peyton.
I saw that Emily Blunt was actually a runner-up for Rachel Dawes' character, and I think she would be an excellent replacement. Honestly, I think she would do it very well.
I approve of that. That's a nice recast. Yeah, Chad, who would you recast?
I love the casting throughout this movie. If I'm recasting one person, even though Maggie Gyllenhaal is the vastly superior actress, I'm replacing her with Katie Holmes just so I have continuity. I understand Katie Holmes walked away, but just go back and show her, here's how much Dark Knight will make. Would you like a part of this?
I went for Rachel as well. I challenged myself to not do what you just did, Chad, because that is I would totally like to keep the same actress in there. I didn't like Maggie Gyllenhaal quite as much. I thought that she did not have the fire and the spirit that we saw with Katie Holmes. I thought Maggie Gyllenhaal did not have the backbone that I wanted out of the role. And I'm going to go with Jennifer Connelly.
I approve. Emily Blunt, Jennifer Connelly, all good.
Yeah. I just think we get I think she can have more backbone that Maggie Gyllenhaal didn't deliver. So, best shot of the movie, it's Peyton.
I think when they come out of the police convoy scene and they're up on the street and Batman goes under the semi truck that the Joker's driving and it flips and you see him and he kind of flops out, kind of like a fish. He kind of comes crawling out of this upturned semi truck, and Batman's coming at him and he's like, "Come on, hit me!" Like it's just such like a psychotic. Like who stands there and is like, "Come on, hit me!" But it's so Joker. I think that probably would have to be one of my favorites.
That's in every promo, or like when people make videos and look back on it fondly. That's in every one of them. That's a wonderful pick. And to your point of they changed the Wayne Enterprise Tower. That's the old Wayne Enterprise Tower from Batman Begins, directly behind him. That's the Chicago Board of Trade building behind him. So still around.
That was a great shot of him crawling out, and he even disorientedly shoots the gun into the ground. Like, he's just so dizzy.
Yeah. Now, Chad, can you top it?
That's a tough shot to compete with. I'm going with the hospital explosions, though. It's all one shot, and it's this long, probably 4 or 5 minute shot, and it lingers on the chaos even as the explosions don't work. And Joker's sitting there hitting it repeatedly and then slowly walking away, happy. And it's just center framed and lingers, and it's great.
When Ledger came out, he wasn't supposed to have to hit the button repeatedly. It was just supposed to go off, but there were some malfunctions in it, and because they were actually blowing a building up, things weren't going well. Ledger ad-libbed that whole come on, work, which was kind of done in a humorous way, and it plays really well in the real role. But the fact of the matter is, it almost didn't work. And if he had looked around and behind him, and he had just was like, "Where's the boom?" That would have been a big whoopsie. So credit for Ledger for not letting his guard down.
He had a couple great ad libs. The scene when he's actually in jail, and he starts the slow clap for Jim Gordon being promoted. That was ad-libbed, and Nolan just told him go with it. He liked it so much. And that was great of him mocking him.
Yeah. Peyton took my best shot, so I'm going to give a runner-up or a nod to, I like when Harvey tells Batman, you can't give in. Half of his left face is like covered in darkness, and it's really good foreshadowing of what will become of Two-Face later, because later Two-Face comes out of the shadows, and the burned half of his face is in the shadows as he's holding Gordon's family hostage. So it's kind of a call ahead / forward, a foreshadowing / callback with that lighting and shot. So, but Peyton robbed me. Best scene in the movie, Peyton.
My best scene, that would have been the hospital scene. I love how it's ad-libbed. I think it's just done so well, and it fits. It fits so well. As the movie like comes full circle, and just I love that part. And he's pressing the button. He's like, "Come on, come on, come on!" It is. I think it's great. I would venture to say it's a little humorous. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like that comedic relief, and it's a brighter scene. I think it's just the acting in that. It's fantastic.
It's one of the only times we see the Joker being funny by wearing a nurse,
exactly.
orderly costume. So I mean, I want more of that from my Joker.
Yeah.
Chad, what is your best scene?
Peyton described it in her shot, but it's the hit me scene where he's begging Batman to hit him from the cycle. The come on, hit me, and his acting and the hesitation from Batman is really powerful, and you can feel the conflict in Batman, even though he'll ultimately swerve, and it's just the guttural scream from Batman at the end of just, I can't break my rule, and he crashes his bike. I love everything about that scene.
Wow, you guys traded best shot and best scene with each other.
We did.
My best scene has to do with the conclusion with Two-Face holding Gordon's family hostage. Ultimately Batman taking the blame. To me, it's a very powerful scene. It's a very powerful move. I felt like that was so powerful it could have stood on its own in another movie. And I'm sad that we didn't get that in between chapter. I didn't want to get rid of Dark Knight Rises. This was so strong it could have even stood on its own. So that was my best scene. And just a quick nod to the Bruce Wayne fundraiser was awesome. When Joker comes in and you realize the story about the scars on his face is all made up and it's different every time he tells it, and any empathy you were building for him is gone. This guy's a psycho and he's all bad news. So, and Bruce Wayne has to wear all three of those faces, real Bruce, public Bruce, and then go into action mode and become Batman all at once. I like that scene a lot too.
It's a great scene.
Change one thing, Peyton.
Oh, that's a hard one. It probably would have to be with the part of the dinner scene when they throw Rachel off of the building. I don't know. There's just something about like Maggie Gyllenhaal's acting in that scene that it just kind of, I didn't like it. It was just never done anything for me. I don't know if it's just, I'm not the biggest fan of her. But I just think that it's kind of over dramatic for that movie. I mean, it's dark, it fits, but it's just, I would have replaced it with something else.
With Emily Blunt screaming.
Yes.
That's fair. I have a feeling Maggie Gyllenhaal is going to get a number of these things. Chad, change one thing.
I would have preferred a less important villain get captured in the beginning. Maybe someone like Victor Zsasz. Punking out the Scarecrow makes me sad.
Okay, yeah. So you did not like the little callback. You would prefer him to just not sit this one out, huh?
The Scarecrow is weak, but he's a great villain, so I don't like just putting him out in the open. Put Victor Zsasz out there.
Okay. My change one thing is going to be to let Two-Face live for another movie. I kind of set it up in the last one, but he's too good, too interesting to just kill off 30 minutes probably after just getting a hold of him as a villain proper. And Nolan even said that if he had known that he was going to make a third Batman movie, Harvey Dent wouldn't have died. Yeah, I felt somewhat justified when I read that. I was like, oh. But on the other hand, people were asking him at like a Comic-Con type panel, is Two-Face going to be in another movie? And, he shook his head. No, of course not. Like, it's more of a, you can't blow up the Death Star twice. Or can you?
As it turns out, 3 times.
Anyway, Peyton, what is your best quote of The Dark Knight?
During the dinner scene when the Joker's like, want to know how I got these scars? Because you don't actually know. I mean, there's so much left up for not interpretation, but up to guess, because he gives you so many different reasons, and it leaves you wondering, what is the truth?
Yeah, he's a giant question mark for sure. Chad, what's your best quote?
If you're good at something, never do it for free.
Yeah, that's a good lesson, actually.
That is solid life advice from the Joker.
It is. I was gonna say that's one of those pieces of advice that you can listen to.
He's not a giant question mark. Edward Nygma is a giant question mark.
That's true. My best quote does come from Michael Caine, where he says, because some men aren't looking for anything logical like money, they just can't be bought, they can't be bullied, reasoned, or negotiated with. Some men just want to watch the world burn.
That's my second choice.
No one went with why so serious.
Now, it is the time of the show where we give our rating. Peyton, on a 5-star scale with half-star intervals, what would you rate The Dark Knight?
With a half-star interval?
Mm-hmm.
I'd give it a 4.
This is your top 3 movies, though, right?
It is.
You're tough.
Yeah, it is.
You're tough. Wow. She's still waiting.
I hope 1 and 2 have fun.
I was gonna say you can go 4.5. I mean, wow, that's tough. Okay, Chad, are you gonna be as tough as Peyton on this movie?
I'm not. This is 5 stars for me, and it's more relevant now than when I first watched it. I mean, how much more relevant is symbols of hope and order becoming corrupt and doing the wrong things in our society right now? We've got protesting in our cities because people have become corrupt, and symbols that are supposed to be of law and order aren't doing what they're supposed to. And we're just seeing that hope lost and the reaction to it. So yeah, this is an even more powerful movie in 2020 than it is in 2008.
Wow, why so serious, Chad?
I have some scars.
Yeah, great points. I'm going to join Peyton in the 4 camp. And while I appreciate this far more than I used to, there's part of me that I will always have my Batman. And it is Tim Burton. And it is Jack Nicholson. It is that Gotham City. It is the comic book side of things. So I'm really happy to see this version in a new light, though. And I appreciate it far more. So I'm joining Peyton on the 4 train.
All right, very good.
All right, Chad, you want to help me pick a movie for next time?
I'm excited.
All right. We're going to sample the finer selections of Christian Slater on this one. You ready?
Excellent.
Option 1, Broken Arrow from 1996. Terrorists steal nuclear warheads from the U.S. military, but don't count on a pilot and park ranger spoiling their plans. Option 2, True Romance from 1993. In Detroit, a lonely pop culture geek marries a call girl, steals cocaine from her pimp, and tries to sell it in Hollywood. Meanwhile, the owners of the cocaine, the mob, track down and attempt to reclaim it. Option 3, Cuffs from 1992. George Cuffs leaves a pregnant girlfriend. He visits his brother, Brad, to bum money off of him. Brad and George ID a killer at the San Francisco PD, but to no avail. George inherits Brad's patrol district, and he must keep it in order to get to the killer in a comedy.
I feel like you wrote my plot summary for all of those movies. But yeah, I'm going to go True Romance.
All right, True Romance it is. And Peyton, thank you so much for coming on and joining us for The Dark Knight.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for inviting me. I had so much fun.
And we had fun as well. And thank you all the lords, ladies, and knights of the Retro Movie Roundtable. We invite you to reach out to us. We want to hear from you, so subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts. Those ratings and reviews and subscriptions really help others find the show. It helps us out, and we really appreciate it. Give us a like on Facebook and engage with us. Tell us what you thought of the episodes and what you thought about the movies each week. We love to hear from you guys. We always love opinions. And follow us on Twitter at movie_retro. Email us at retromovieroundtable@yahoo.com if you want to go in more depth or if you want to be on the show. Thank you. And thank you, as always, for listening. Be good to each other and watch more movies. Chad?
This one's for you, Russell. Tell me something, my friend. Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Yes! Let's get nuts!